Why is it that you still can't say no, even when you know it's costing you everything? Not just your time, but your energy, your joy, and maybe even your sense of self. If you've ever felt like you're slowly losing yourself under the weight of everyone else's needs, I've been there too, as have many of my clients. The reason you can't say no comes from more than one place. So let's figure out what the main cause is for you. Most people think the worst part of never saying no and always saying yes is that you are constantly busy. But that's not even the real danger. The true cost comes when you're losing yourself, your spark for your mission, your joy for life, and your actual self of who you are. You become this shell or this mask, and you become this performer as the quote unquote helper while your own needs and your own self disappears. And you want to know what the wild part is? It's almost like an addiction. The more you help, the more it feels good inside and you want more of that. It's a dopamine hit when you're saying yes, especially initially, you say yes and it feels good that you get to help other people. But then when it comes to actually following through on that, you realize it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I have time, energy for this thing that I just said yes to. And it's hard to stop until you barely recognize yourself anymore. If you've ever wondered why it feels impossible to say no, the answer isn't just about kindness or fear of conflict. There's something deeper, something really programmed into us, conditioned into us, and it's time for you to finally see it. So let me take you back when I was always the yes person for my family and most people around me. I was the helper, the reliable one. And at first, it felt right, like my role or even maybe my purpose. And one of the distinct times in my life was when my sister asked me to leave my job to care for her son with disabilities and then her younger son as well. So I essentially became a nanny with one of the kids having complex medical needs. And I will say she came to me at a great time because I wasn't liking my job and I was kind of looking for something different. And so I was thankful to have this opportunity to say yes, even though I had no medical experience. And the longer I did this, the more people would say, oh, do you have a background in nursing? I did not. I learned on the job and I loved what I did. What I realize now in looking back is it gave me the opportunity to say yes to other people as well. And especially at the time, I didn't have my own children. So for me, it made sense that, someone with young kids, especially with kids with disabilities and other people in my life, I always saw it as I have more resources and I have more time and capacity, so I can keep saying yes to these opportunities. What ended up happening is that continued on and it just continued to grow. I kept saying yes, never saying no, and felt like it really became who I was, that if I said no, was I a bad person if I said no? I didn't want to be a bad person. I didn't want to be a bad sister. I wanted to be good. And this is where some of that, the spiritual piece and growing up in a religious household, going to church is oftentimes we're told this message of sacrifice and that sacrifice is good and that if you're sacrificing, you're good. And if you're not sacrificing, you're bad. And there's so much gray in there that doesn't get talked about. There's so much in between that, yes, we do need to sacrifice. We are inherently going to be sacrificing. It's a give and take. The problem is, if you're someone who is listening to this, you're probably someone who gives and gives and gives and doesn't receive. And it feels like if I ask for help, then I am bad, that I shouldn't need help. The truth is, saying no isn't just hard, it can be scary. It's like risking your identity because you're not just disappointing others, you're breaking this rule, that this belief system that you didn't even know you agreed to, of being inherently good or inherently bad. But here's the twist. And this next insight really changes everything about how you set boundaries. You felt and maybe even been told that saying no is selfish, is rude, is unkind. But what if it's actually the key to helping others without losing yourself? The real reason you can't say no isn't about time management. It's about the belief that you picked up in your upbringing, maybe as a kid, maybe in church, maybe just watching how your parents navigated life, that your worth is measured by how much you give. It's by how hard you work and how much you sacrifice. And we all want to be hard workers, but not in a way that we completely sacrifice our own mental, physical, and emotional health. So here's the paradox: the more you sacrifice yourself, the less you have to give. And eventually, everyone loses, including the people you're trying so hard to help. When you can learn to say no, you're not abandoning others. You're becoming the kind of person who can say yes without burnout, who can say yes without resenting others, who can say yes without losing yourself in the process. Now, this is where most people stop, but here's what pulls it all together. Everything really changes when you see that saying no isn't the end of your generosity. It's really the start of your real long-term sustainable impact. But if you skip this part, if you only set boundaries but don't heal those underlying beliefs, you will slip back into your default mode of overgiving, of self-sacrifice, and losing yourself. You deserve to be able to reclaim your time, your energy, and your sense of self so you can actually help the people you care about and not just survive another day. Feel free to share this with someone who needs permission to take their life back. You know, that person that popped up in your head, you never know whose spark you'll reignite to thrive in their lives and not just survive. Another common feeling among my clients is that this feeling of when I'm burning out, the only thing I can do is to just burn it all down and start from scratch. But I promise you, that is not always the case. And if you click on the video on the screen, or if you're listening to the podcast, you can click on the previous video. I'll walk you through why that is right now. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. It's anonymous. Leave a comment and subscribe for more videos about burnout, compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma, and loving your life on purpose, because you are worth it.